powers and the political powers that constantly repress us. When we talk about the crisis of poverty in this country, I know a lot of people tend to feel disheartened because in America you grow up hearing countless stories about how this land, this stolen land, has supposedly served as a land of opportunity for every kind of person. But we know this to be false. We know a society where people's basic rights to healthcare, to education, to housing, to food, to safety are treated as a privilege, as something to be earned. This is not a society which fosters opportunity for anybody aside from those who have exploited enough people to be at the top economic tier of society. We live in a toxic culture that tells us the best kind of person you can be is somebody who has earned everything they have off of their labor and nobody else's. This is despite the fact that we know that the most powerful people in the world only gain their power through the exploitation of hundreds of thousands of people. We're told the best thing we can be is independent. Really, we're being gaslit by our bosses, by big business, by corporate interests who need to lie to us, telling us that working tirelessly without proper pay is the way to earn success and stability. That's a lie. The force that sends us this message is neoliberalism, a project to create weakness and docility amongst working and poor people. And the assertion that simple, hard work is the way to success is not based in truth, but in ideology pushed in conjunction with austerity, with the stripping of resources from the most vulnerable people, with a denial of our basic rights in order to make working and poor people blind to the deeply unjust and immoral situation that we're in. They tell us that poverty is the result of a lack of intelligence or a lack of work ethic. Meanwhile, most children in our very own state are living in poverty. Are these children's conditions due to a lack of work ethic? Will they pull themselves out of their condition when they are able to get a job and make something of themselves? No, they probably won't. Because we know the reality is mobility across class in this country is virtually impossible. And this is because poverty is not a result of any choice you could possibly make. It is the result of capitalist exploitation. How else could we live in the wealthiest country in the world and have people die from curable diseases due to lack of health insurance? How else could we live in the wealthiest country in the world and have teachers spending hundreds of dollars a year on school supplies for their classrooms? How else could we live in the wealthiest country in the world and have young people risk their lives killing people in the Middle East for oil to pay for their college education? How else could we live in the wealthiest country in the world and have 48% of our population in poverty or low income? We live in the wealthiest country in the world where people struggle to survive. That means poverty is not an issue of scarcity, not an issue of whether or not you've earned the tools to survive. The scarcity so many suffer in this country does not come from a lack of resources, but from a hoarding of the wealth on the part of the ruling class, whose aim is to perpetuate and build their wealth and their power. But if poverty is not an issue of work ethic, as the ruling class would have us believe, then neither is the task of ending the system that keeps us in poverty. We are not lacking the capacity. We are simply building after centuries of trying to knock down these barriers and being knocked down again every time by Democrats, Republicans, any corporate interests. You can imagine it doesn't matter who they are. If you're in power in this country, if you're part of the ruling class, if you benefit from corporate interests, then you are going to repress any movement that threatens your power. And we're standing up against that today. We're here today to say that poverty is immoral, the war economy is immoral, people deserve wealth, or education, health insurance, things that you need to live day to day are not earned. If you're telling me that I need an education to be successful, then that is my right. We have to remember that we are stronger than them. All that we're facing is repression and the continued perpetuation of the idea that working people are just the bottom of the barrel. We're not smart enough to understand how this works. We know how this works because we live it.
Thank you.
When we fight,
we win!
When we fight,
we win!
When we fight,
we win!
We're gonna win. Thank you.
Woo!